Calvin Castine at the Clinton County Historical Association Museum. Is November 1st, 2023. We are starting our third rendition here of, edition, I should say, of our view today. And we're in a place that I've never been in before. It sounds like all kinds of illegal stuff going on in here. Who are you, young lady?
I am Geri Favreau. I am president of the board, Clinton County Historical. I just finished my 7th year at that, and I think I'm going to start an 8th. I'm not quite decided yet.
Running for re-election.
Running for re-election. I love it. I mean, I love it.
What else would you do?
Exactly. So, a few years ago, probably around the beginning of COVID, we had a very nice grant from the Lake Champlain National Heritage Partnership, or the Lake Champlain Basin Program, for Prohibition exhibit. But it had three things that had to happen. First, it had to be 2 rooms. One room had to be a speakeasy. The second room had to be tell the story. Actually, it had 4 things, and we had to involve Canada. That was all part of the grant.
Okay.
So I pulled in some experts on doing exhibits and stuff. Dick Soper for one, and also Larry Gooley, who wrote the book Bullets, Booze, and Bootleggers. Yep. And of course, Larry, everybody knows him, he does a tremendous amount of research, and we used him a lot. He and Jill were on our committee. And Jerry Gagne and Sue Coffey and whatever. But
okay, I got to point out, Larry's our cousin, so
yes, my
so
first
we have
cousin.
to point out every time you have a.
Yes, our mothers were sisters. Yes, from Cherubusco, by the way.
Okay.
So our challenge was that bootlegging was a federal crime. So people we couldn't go into our collection and find artifacts. We couldn't go into our collection and search speakeasy and come up with pictures, because they didn't promote their places as speakeasies, not in the papers and stuff. So Larry was a really good, very, very good resource for us, and some of us have been around, a couple of years. So what we did here, this is our speakeasy, and Dick Soper, who's sitting at the piano, is the one that built the speakeasy.
Wow. Put
it all together. The Riverside in Keysville, that is still there. I actually went and visited. It's still open. It's very limited, though. Poppy Rock, if anybody remembers Poppy Rock from high school, she was a ref for basketball, and she owns it. She has limited hours. It's mostly, local people that come by maybe in the afternoon, have a few beers. She doesn't want to be open all the time. And of course, anybody who lives in Champlain or the northern tier is familiar with the Meridian, because the Meridian was a hot spot during Prohibition and probably after Prohibition, because people would go up there to drink and party and whatever, and Calvin can tell you a whole lot more about the Meridian than I can, because he's Champlain native and I'm not. So we wanted to, this was part of our, where we included Canada, and then when we got around, we set this up as a line house. And a lot of people are not familiar with what line houses or line stores are. And what they are is they are a building that is right on the border. This is an example of a line house or line store. This is Pexi Couson's place in Cherubusco, and it shows, you can see the border marker goes right through the center of the building. This was, I don't know if this was ever speakeasy, I don't know the history of it. My mother took this picture when they were getting ready to tear it down, so it's now gone. There's the new customs houses and stuff there.
Okay, I assume the left is Canada and the right is the U.S.?
This is U.S. and this is Canada.
Okay, otherwise she would have been illegally crossing the border if she'd taken a picture from this side, so,
Well, see, she was.
She was on the U.S.
See where she was, yeah. So it's a good example of what a line house was. So the way we set this up was that if you were at the bar on the American side having a wonderful time, and the law enforcement came in or they knew they were coming, you could take your booze and put it on that side, because now you're in Canada, and they couldn't touch you. couldn't do anything. They also used to put booze in boxes and cases on wheels for the same reason, that if it was in the U.S. and law enforcement came in, they'd just wheel it to Canada so they couldn't touch it.
We do not advocate this. We're just recording history here.
It's history,
That's
yeah.
right.
It
We're not
total is history,
advocating-
yeah. We have a couple of menus and stuff from the Meridian, and they're actually my private collection. I probably will donate them. What I'm going to do with them. So one of the things that we were able to have. What do you have in a speakeasy? Speakeasy is fun, right?
I assume, I don't know.
Music and dancing and drinking.
You've been there, I've never have. So.
Partying. Well, maybe we haven't been in a speakeasy, Calvin, but we're the same era. So we
Went to the
remember the
Saxony.
Saxony and the Champlain Hotel and the
Brody's,
Savoy.
and Brody's and those
yeah,
places.
exactly, yeah. So anyway, we were fortunate that Dick in the Transportation Museum had this player piano. It doesn't really have any real connection to Clinton County, but it was built in the 1920s, so it's the right era. And it's been a really, really great attraction. Kids, who's seen a player piano and who has actually, and who's ever played one? You know, so the kids love it. They come in and because it doesn't belong to us and won't be accession, they can touch it, they can play it. So Dick's going
to give us a tune here?
Yep.
That's right. A couple things to look for here. It's got a roll on here, has
Yep.
the name of the song,
Yep.
Ain't She Sweet, and as it plays, you can see the words to the song here. Now,
So you can
it's
sing along.
played with two pedals here on the floor, down on the bottom, and you pump like a bicycle. Go left and right like this.
Who needs
And-
karaoke when you got this, right?
That's right. And if you look over here, these are the bellows. Once
Uh-huh.
this start, there's all kinds of mechanical things going. Once this starts, watch the keys actually go when I start playing the music. So we're going to start now, and we'll play for a little while, and then you get to see what it's like. You see here, the bellows are going, and it's just about to start.
Now, how do you rewind it?
You rewind it by shifting this over here and then backing it right up. It backs right up to the beginning. You gotta be careful, it's made out of paper. The shifter here shifts it over. And anyhow, it backs up. And
Hopefully.
at the end, reroll, sorry, I got the wrong one. There we go.
There we go. Rewind. All right.
It's not rewinding for some reason.
You gotta pump them brakes.
Oh, yeah. this one.
Gotta do them pumping there.
Yeah. You don't want to pump too hard, when it comes to the end, it could rip the paper. So you gotta be careful.
Although we never used it, I grew up in my younger days with a player piano in our living room before we had a TV, and we never used it, but there was one there.
Well,
And if you don't tell anyone, I'd like to make a toast to the end of Prohibition. The prohibition has come to an end, so Yes,
it's
come to
safe.
an end.
You can drink that
And
now.
Geri will continue with the talk.
so we have about 150 rolls.
150 rolls.
Yeah,
so-
some came with it, and we had a lot of people, once they knew we had the piano, donated them.
So-
And Simon, one of our people, went through and inventoried all of them. So we were able to pick the ones that were for the right era.
Okay,
So
I
one
got
of
some
the-
pictures here, yeah.
Yeah, one of the struggles, like I said, is how do you know what's a speakeasy? Well, thank you to my first cousin Larry Gooley, an award-winning author, by the way. We were able to identify that the Union Hotel that was downtown was a speakeasy at one time. That's gone. I believe that's St. John's Church behind it over there. See the roof?
Uh-huh.
I believe there's maybe a bank there now, or a parking lot.
Parking lot.
Parking lot. So this is the American House in Sable Forks. I can't tell you if it's still there or not. You would have to call Sharon Hewson or the historian from the town of Sable to tell you if that's still there. But this was another one. Somebody, of course, bootlegging and prohibition. It's a lot of stories. A lot of stories that came down through the ages, went from one generation to the next. Some may be a little embellished at times, and I'll tell you one of those. But somebody came in and told us that their grandfather said he had served booze at the Monopole during Prohibition. So that's why we put that one up. So,
All right. So they're not saying it's true, that's just a story that, so if you own the monopole, do not come after the Clinton County Historical Association.
don't know. It's all lore.
Hearsay.
So we had a few things. One of the things that we found was that some of the doctors were able to prescribe alcohol during Prohibition.
Oh, sure.
I do not know why. I've been asked, and I keep saying I need to find out, but I have not. But anyway, so we have this house right here was Dr. Spencer down on Margaret Street, and it is now where that's been torn down, and the Press Republican is there today.
Okay.
We have one of his original prescriptions, and it has alcohol on it. O.T. Larkin was down on Bridge Street, and you can see here alcohol is on one of his prescription pads, and that in the back is where his store was. That's down, I think Mother's is on the corner here now, on Margaret. This is that Margaret and that little short street. We were able to just kind of come up with, trying to, like the bathtub gym, that's just a depiction of it.
Right.
That homemade beer in the back, see they're handwritten? That's my grandmother's recipe for homemade beer. I have a lot in this, be surprised. Yeah, so these pictures, Alan Everest's book was a huge help. And they have his,
Rum across the border.
yeah, his files and stuff are all at special collections. We were able to get there, they were able to help us by supplying copies. And you will notice what we do is we give credit to people who give us photos to use in our exhibits. We believe that's important to us.
Of course.
But this is just showing some of the ways that they used to smuggle booze. This is what a tank took the place of a rear seat, the boats. This is a bag of potatoes. They used to put booze in bags of potatoes and other things to come across the border. This bag actually is from the Gagne potato farm in Cherubusco. We don't know if they had any background in Prohibition.
And he ain't
You'd have to
saying.
ask Geri.
Jerry's not saying.
But they were the largest seed potato farm in New York State at one time, and it was Jerry's grandfather that started it, then his father, and then Geri. And now it's, of course, it's closed. But that jug was my great-great-grandfather's from Cherubusco. He was a Legree. So what we did here is we tried to, Larry and Jill did all of this. They went in and got headlines from papers and stuff about things that happened, people that were caught, people, things that happened during the Prohibition time. And what I like to tell people is that, we say, like I say, oh, my grandfather was a bootlegger. Isn't that something? It was not a good time. People died, people got hurt, people went to jail, people lost their fortunes. I mean, it was not all fun and games, I guess you would say.
It may be romanticized, but
Yes, exactly, yeah. But it was not a good time for a lot of people. It was also the start of NASCAR, which I think is kind of interesting too, because the bootleggers used to soup their cars up, and then it became NASCAR came out of that. So this guy here. So one of the things that we saw in the paper, Press Republican has that looking backward column every week, and one of the articles in there, it talked about being the target of an officer's bullets twice, blah, 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 and the sewing machine factory, it says, bridge near the sewing machine factory is being used extensively by smugglers of late. So we went looking, okay, so where was the sewing machine factory here in Plattsburgh? And this is the Williams Sewing Machine Factory. It's on Pine Street. This is where the city PD is today.
Yep.
And this bridge, we believe, is the one that they're talking about in this article. There was another one before this that got washed out by ice and flooding. And that actually had the train tracks on top of the bridge, and the cars would go underneath. Now, I don't know if I'd want to do that, but this is the second bridge. And I believe, see this is the base back here? See the base housing?
Yep.
The officers' quarters. The new bridge they just put down there on Pine Street that goes across the Saranac River. This is where NYSEG has all their set up. Believe this is in the same footprint as this one, because the cement, I don't know what you call them, abutments or what it may be, were still there and they used them. So, and this is Senecal. This is Chief Senecal. If you look back, he was very busy during Prohibition. You find a lot of information about him. So, let's go there.
Okay, and while I'm thinking of it, we just mentioned the Meridian, and the Meridian was up at the end of Oak Street in Champlain, and if you come down Oak Street, you come right across from the Knights of Columbus and the Celine Paquette's Champlain History Museum, and it was, it says a mile, but the mile, description here says a mile, but it's a mile from the village because it was right on the border. It's right on so it wasn't a mile from the town, it was a mile from the village of Champlain, and it was right across the border. And the story goes that at one time a Champlain town plow sunk through and got stuck over there while they were cleaning out the driveway for the Meridian.
Oh, yeah? Sure.
So he got in trouble, whoever the driver was.
Just another one of those stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got some bootleggers here.
Yep. So anyway, we pulled in help from a lot of places. You'll notice on the curtain there's a yellow tape that says crime scene, do not cross.
Yep.
Well, I went to the city PD one day and I walked in and I said, I need crime scene tape. And of course they're like, what do you need that for? So I explained, so they went and got me a whole roll and we were able to use it there. And I buy my wine at Gaiosa's over here in Skyway, and I looked in the front window and they had this display. There's a wine called, I think it's called 19 Crimes. And this was part of the display. And I went in and I got a hold of Rick Latour. I said, we need this for our exhibit. So he was able to get it from whoever does their displays and gave it to us. And it's been last week or a couple of weeks ago, we had some young people in here, probably 12, 13 years old, and we pulled it out and took their pictures behind there. They put the cuffs on. They were the keys.
Encouraging them to get arrested. That's nice.
Yep.
They're coming for you, Geri.
They're coming. Yep. So I think the interesting part about Gaiosa is that down where G&G is, which stands for Gaiosa and Gaiosa, there was a Gaiosa soft drink store operated by this Angelo Gaiosa. That was it was a speakeasy. So it's the same. There's a connection between the speakeasy, G&G, and the wine liquor store over here on Skyway. So it was it all kind of ties in like together. So, how do you find out? How do you get pictures of bootleggers? Because unless they went to jail, right? So, up on the top, these are Rouse's Point was a real hot spot. Rouse's Point, Champlain, a real hot spot for Prohibition, and I think Rouse's Point a lot, maybe a little more, because it had the three ways for booze to come across. There was the lake, and roads. There was the train. They could walk. I mean, the lake. You'll see there's something about a submarine in Lake Champlain. So these are three former bootleggers from Champlain, again from Alan Everest's book. I'm sure people will recognize at least the name Rassico and Hunter and Chevalier. And so when we put the word out, we had this family, Eldemore DeCos's family, his granddaughter brought his picture in. And what does it say here? He captured the boss of one of the largest gangs of illicit alcohol smugglers in operation along the New York state frontier. And that was him. Forsook his car and headed for the bush at Petit Ethiopia Road. I don't know where that is. Long gone. So he was a bootlegger and he got caught. This old guy, Calvin, will definitely recognize. This is my father-in-law, Edward Favreau. Very proud to have been a bootlegger. Right, Calvin?
He sat down with us for 2 episodes.
Yes. Told us that he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just trying to support his family.
Earn a living.
And he also claims to have been shot by one of Al Capone's men. We never saw the scar, but we have to believe him. But Edward he liked to talk about his experiences. And like Calvin said, Calvin sat down with him. You did too.
Bob Ben and I,
yeah.
yes.
And it was Edward, Hubert Trombley?
Orville Trombley.
Okay.
Orville Trombley and Frank Monette.
Yeah.
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 So we did a story with them. We sat in the Knights of Columbus Hall in Champlain, because that was, that's where you came through from the Meridian Nuclear, rolling right down through there. Then we jumped in a car. Garceau's Auto Sales loaned us a car, and we got a little tour around, went to place, and saw some of the places. We did 2 episodes with those guys.
Yep, and they loved it, didn't
Yes.
they?
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank you, Calvin, for you, because you captured their stories.
Finally, for years people would talk about it in hush-hush, but when they wouldn't say it publicly. So we finally got 3 people that would talk about it. And my father mentioned that they used our barns. They're hidden in our barns. Ed Favreau spent the night on my grandmother's couch, hiding from the cops. He'd hide his booze in the barn, and wait till the traffic cleared, and then head out the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, he was and my father-in-law was a character. That's a good description, right? He was a character. Yeah, he loved driving limo. So these 2 guys, this is Cherubusco connected. This old guy here is my great-grandfather, who was a bootlegger. It says here he went to held for action in federal court and for violation of the Prohibition Act, arrested in Chateauguay when he was transporting a gallon of alleged alcohol on a horse-drawn sleigh, and bail was fixed at $2,000, was furnished. My great-grandfather. He and my great-grandmother owned the Summit Hotel in Cherubusco. It had been the Fremont before, but when they had it, it was called the Summit. And they used to have a barn, everybody, horses, behind the hotel. And the story that I heard was that the customs would come, they'd put their horses up in the barn, they'd go in, have their dinner, and go to bed, and my great-grandfather would use their horses to run booze over at night. Another one of those.
You wonder why the horses retired the next day.
Yes. Yeah. Doesn't he look like them? Yeah, he had a heart attack, he had a massive heart attack. My grandfather was bringing him to Plattsburgh, and he had a massive heart attack in the car and died. So,
Wow.
yeah, I never knew him. I knew her, but I didn't know him. So these people, again, are my relatives. This is my grandfather, a bootlegger. My grandmother, my mother, Evelyn, Anna, Dorothy, and Hazel. And I did a couple of papers on Prohibition when I was in college. And I interviewed my grandmother, and she said that she had, if she knew that law was coming into town, she'd make sure that my grandfather and her father-in-law knew so that they could hide their booze or do whatever they had to do.
Well, what was their secret way of finding out?
I don't know. Think about that back
no
then. There was no
Facebook.
cell phones.
No.
I don't know. Yep. Should have asked her that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this young lady, this is Anna. These are the 4 girls that my grandmother had from 1919 to 1926. So you can see my grandmother was busy with diapers and no formula at those times, and wash diapers, right? But anyway, Anna's son is Larry, the author, and he interviewed her for his book, and she told him that my grandfather used to put the booze under her skirt to bring it across the border. So,
A little child like that, and I never knew
Yeah.
that about Anna.
yeah.
If I'd
Yeah.
known, I would have turned her in.
Oh, you knew her.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, the stories that she had to tell. She was just something else. We miss her a lot. Yep. I miss all my aunts. This one was like a second mother to me, and Hazel was the youngest. So, anyway. So we, again, have this map and more headlines. And the ones that we kind of find interesting is beer running submarine is again seized. So apparently there was a submarine in Lake Champlain that they used to run.
Well, they'd probably have a little barge that was sunk and tow it, I would think. I
Yep.
doubt if it was self-propelled, but, some boat could be innocently coming along, and underneath they were towing. But I'm sure that story, if they can find it, will describe what really was happening, but that's my guess. So,
I think-
are all these headlines
all
in
he-
Larry's book?
They're not in Larry's book. Well, not that I'm aware of anyway. I think these were some of the stuff that he found when he was doing his research. I had heard somewhere along the line, and you probably have heard this too, that if they were out on the lake and they had booze and they knew they were going to get caught, they would tie like a block of salt to the booze and throw it over.
Yeah.
And then the salt would dissolve and the booze would come back to the surface so that then they'd go and pick it up. Did you ever hear that story?
Yeah, things
Yeah.
along those lines, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just tie it so that the salt will sink it, but salt melts, and so that's why Lake Champlain is so salty then.
Salt Lake. Yeah. 6 Trombley. I wonder if that's the Trombleys that are your relatives.
I don't know if that's from the Orville's family. On the other side of my family, there's Trombleys that I'm related to. My grandmother was a Trombley, Charlie Trombley, the race driver, and all those people. Those are cousins. All right, more
So,
photos.
again, Alan Everest, thank God for Alan Everest. He had these, this is Ross's Point. Again, this is where Myers used to be. I'm not even sure it was there anymore. And showing how some of the equipment they used to use to check the bales of hay and stuff to see if there was booze. Of course, this is a very popular photo, as is this one out in front of St. Patrick's Church.
Yeah.
I had heard somewhere that when the village dug to do their water plant, they found a lot of broken glass because it's right in this area. Yeah.
The border people would go there and break the bottles, and that's how they would dispose. And every once in a while, the bottle didn't break. And kids would be running some extra dough when they went out there and gathered those. But you can imagine clawing through all that broken glass They must have cut themselves a few times.
Yep. I wonder how many bottles ended up in the pockets of these guys. None, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Yep. So this has been a
Shocked.
very interesting photo too,
Which one? The
because
Clustons?
of the people that are in it, and Larry Bayshard's parents. Give me a name. She was Connolly.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Norman and
Kitty.
Kitty.
Yep.
Bayshard.
Their youngest son brought them in to see this because her father is here, is in this photo. Walter, is that her father?
Yeah, there's Walter. Yeah, there's Walter's name.
Yeah.
Walter in the first row says, and I've got to point out something. Speaking of the Connollys, old people like you and I will remember the name Tim McCoy as a cowboy, and he was related to the Connollys.
Really?
His family was from the St. Lawrence County area, and they moved west, and that's where Tim grew up. But his family was from this northern tier area, and the Connollys were related, first cousins.
Wow. Yep. And Jack Ross, noted historian.
One of the great ones.
We have, they just sold his house in Ross's Point, and Heather got a hold of us, and she dispersed his collection in a number of ways, but we got some of it, and some of it went to the village, and I think some went to the Historical Society, but we got some. And there's some pretty interesting things in there. He was really, he was like Marjorie Lansing Porter and an Addie Shields. So passionate about the history of this area, and thank goodness for them, they captured it. For those of us who are coming behind.
Yeah, and people like you mentioned, Alan Everest too.
Yeah.
Wasn't a native, but he sure did a lot to preserve our history.
And somebody who was here, Jim Bailey, who has passed away. In our research files and in our library, Jim Bailey's name is everywhere. He just was passionate about capturing the history. So, moving on. Troop B was formed during Prohibition, and this is just a picture to show some of what it was about. This was, they said here, picture taken in Moors. Not even sure where we got that picture, but anyway, this isn't really interesting. I find it interesting. I don't know if people know who Marissa Gilbert is. Marissa is she's a CPA for Alexander Exports, where one of those car dealerships was, at the corner where the Ford man was standing in those pictures. And she's a CPA, she's our bookkeeper, she's as straight as you could possibly be. We don't spend a penny. She doesn't let us know. And anyway, and her brother, Morris, is a state trooper as well as his wife. But this is Marissa's mother, and this is her grandfather, Francis Coveney. Moores. We used to have, I can't remember his first name, but Mr. Coveney was a teacher at Ellenberg when I was there. And so there's a relationship here, maybe a nephew or something. I think Marissa said it was her uncle when he died. But anyway, Francis Coveney was he was a border patrol, and he was caught and indicted on charges of conspiracy and bribery in a smuggling ring. He was fined and sentenced to Atlanta for 3 terms, 2 years each to be served concurrently. He was paroled 9 months before the end, came back, and was caught again. And Marissa's the one that made sure we knew about this story. If you know her and you know that, it just blows my mind. Yeah, Francis Coveney.
He's just trying to make an honest living.
Another honest living.
Yeah.
Support his family. Yeah, okay. So the Gilbert Road in Moores is named after Marissa's
Family?
Father, must
Father.
be. Yeah, must be, because her mother was a Coventry. Yeah. So she's got a lot of, she's been around here like 25 or 30 years, and she and Bill Laundrie are our institutional knowledge. If you want to know anything about the building or what's here or where the history, you talk to them.
We talked about historians. We got one active right now in Champlain with Celine Paquette, who's doing a heck of a job
Yes.
preserving our history.
Oh.
That museum that she's financed.
Absolutely, yep. And we need people like that. So these pictures, again, here's the roots. And we put this picture up. We don't know that it's Prohibition related, but it's a good depiction of what probably happened. And there's another picture, I think, of this, and there's no bullet hole coming out the back of the car. So it went into somebody. But anyway, Alan Everett's book says this is Overton's quarters on
That's above northeastern
9.
Clinton.
now 9B or 223. But isn't Route 9, isn't 276?
276 is Overton's.
Right. And in Rouse's Point, the Customs is the one on 9. But that's not this one, is it?
Well, if it's Overton's Corners, then that would be above northeastern Clinton.
Right.
If it's Rouse's Point, it could be 9B. But of course, during Prohibition, Rouse's Point was Route 9. Route 9 didn't go through there till I think the 40s. It switched over to going through Champlain. And 9B that goes through Rouse's Point now wasn't 9B, it was Route 9.
So maybe this was 9 and 9B?
I don't know. I'll get in my time machine and we'll take a look. Yeah.
Interesting to find out.
I know where that next one is, though.
Yeah. You know who the guy is in the picture?
Was it Ed? I don't know.
His picture is over there. Edward,
It
my
was
father-in-law.
Ed. It was Ed, okay. Yeah.
He wasn't in the car, though.
No, he got his picture taken with it. Yeah.
Well, I told you he was a character. You had to
Yeah.
come down and check it out. Julie Dowd did some research on this. She found who was driving it, and Edward was not in. But what a ride that must have been.
Well, as if you're coming down, racing down Oak Street, and you get to that intersection, there's a funeral home on your left as you're getting there coming from Canada. You got the Knights of Columbus on your right, but there's a bit of a curve there as you approach the bridge. And the Customs House was right there on Elm Street, right across from the funeral home. So you came through there, you wanted to be going at a good clip. So they came through there, and instead of turning, they went kind of straight. I think it looks like the funeral home in back of the bridge here. I think that just might be the funeral home behind in this picture. So you can see that little curve as they're coming down and trying to make that turn at whatever mileage they were going. They weren't very successful.
Wasn't there a bowling alley in the basement?
There
of the
used to be
building?
a bowling
I
alley
think my
there.
cousins, John and Tom Gooley, set pins there.
Yeah, now it's a parking lot for Celine's museum.
Yeah. All the parking lots.
Yeah.
So this, again, our Dick Soper. Thank God we have Dick Soper, and he's such a talented and such a creative mind. So we needed to depict the bootlegging in Clinton County. We try very hard. We're adamant that our exhibits include as much or all of the county as possible. Because I always tell people when they walk in the door, because we're situated in Plattsburgh, they think we're a Plattsburgh museum, and we're not. We're a Clinton County museum, and we work very hard to get that word out and also to include the whole county in our exhibits when possible. You know?
Right.
So this one he set up, and I don't know, you'll be familiar. This is the Gulf. in
The
Morris.
Gulf. Yeah, this is in Moores, and
Yeah.
it's on the Cannon's Corners area above there, and it looks in many ways, except you haven't got the big high waterfalls, but it looks a lot like the Ausable Chasm if you're just looking at the walls there. And we were fortunate that Leonard Patry took us up there, and I think it was Leonard Drown that got us the ride in, so we wouldn't have to walk the distance off the road. But it was very, very interesting to look at that Gulf, and I just talked to a fellow recently who lives on the other side of the border, and he's talking about how they look at the Gulf from there. But it's a very unique spot, and it's you can find it on the map. You can find the Gulf written on the map.
Yep, here's some pictures of the way that we took it off a Facebook page, so
Yeah.
you can show the high cliffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and the story we heard was that when the bootleggers, when they were being chased, would either dump their load or dump their cars in the Gulf, maybe bodies, who knows?
I've heard, you know, when they smuggled Chinamen across that
Oh.
sometimes if they were being chased, that's where they ended up. So whether that's true or not, or just
Right.
fantasy, who knows?
And it's not, this is a nice depiction of the Gulf, but the Gulf, people should know, runs across the border. It straddles the
right,
border
right.
between Canada and the U.S. It's not like a pond, it's like
No,
a
no,
lake,
it's huge.
lake, kind of, yeah.
That's huge
My-
and deep.
My grandfather told me a story one time that there was a young couple there with their horse and buggy, and courting and whatever, and something spooked the horse, and they all went over the edge of the Gulf.
Ouch.
Yeah, right.
At least they died happy.
Yes, I guess. I hope so. And it's open to the public. There's trails. I don't know if they're maintained, but the state, there's signs up there. It's a state, I don't know, it's a DEC. There's signs about the Gulf that you
yeah.
can go
Yeah.
and explore.
Yeah. I when we did that video there, and I got back and looked at it, I said, you know, I was crazy to be standing. Was standing on a ledge. I'm looking at this picture right here, and looking across the way we saw where similar ledges had collapsed and trees were down. I said that ledge wasn't used to having 3 people standing on it. We could have just as easily been the final straw that collapsed that ledge we were standing on, and we could have been at the mercy of the Gulf.
Yeah. You'd been at the bottom somewhere.
Yeah,
Yep.
the way I swim, yes.
Although they say it's bottomless, so I don't know where you
Well,
would
I'm sure
end
there's
up.
a
China,
I'm
maybe.
sure there's a bottom. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is, this is Dick Soper. Here's the cops chasing he overturned his car, and this is supposed to be a still. He used an old birdhouse he had in his garage, and he built the still. And he also put this together. Actually, I should show him that's collapsed. So it shows that this is the front. I think this is a diner or something. I can't
Okay,
remember what he
yeah.
says on the front. And anyway, you go in and you knock 3 times, or you're through this building or through here, and go into the speakeasy in the back.
So you'd wonder why there were 50 cars and only 3 people sitting in the diner.
Yeah.
I'm going to wander around to this side to see
Yeah.
what it says. If it says, don't forget to check out the lottery board. Okay, that's whatever
Yes.
that means. So diner. And of course, we can remember those kind of diners. I know they had one here, a couple here in Plattsburgh for a while. I'm talking about these diners, not the not the ones with the bootleggers in back. Is that your phone buzzing?
Probably my watch.
Oh.
So this is be up for a little bit yet, if anybody wants to come and talk to us and see and check this out. It's been a very, very, very popular exhibit
Yes, this
because
is-
people are still young enough they can relate to
Yes, this
their
is a
grandparents and great-grandparents. And this is a bottle capper on top. My Aunt Anna says she remembers when they were at the hotel in Churubusco, she remember using a bottle capper to cap the beer bottles or soda bottles.
soda bottles.
Yeah. So
Okay, so this is our 3rd chapter here, this visit today. And this is just a portion of what is available here. We've already got 2 chapters, and I think we've got more to come. We want to thank Geri Favreau for spending this time with us and telling us all about the bootlegging days. And again, the hours here are
Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 3, or by appointment, or when there's a car in the yard. Knock on the door and ring the bell.
knock 3 times.
Right.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
if you ring the bell, it'll come across on my watch.
Oh, okay. All righty.